Perfect. Good morning, everyone. Again, this is Bruno Laclos. This is Regency Wine, Nevada, North and South, Las Vegas and Reno, and this is Hillside Wine and Spirit in California. I have the privilege today to have all of you on a Zoom meeting. I really appreciate that. You know, we do that every other week since the pandemic started, and I believe that we are growing the community. We are growing the passion as well, and it's a beautiful thing to see all of you this morning to this new session with Chateau Potelle. Chateau Potelle is one of our top premium California wine that we do now for the past 5 or 6 years. We're privileged to have allocation of this wine over the year, and I want to thank Matthew Regan, our general manager, the person really making the stuff happen over there to be part of this meeting this morning. He's going to tell us the story about Chateau Potelle. How did he start with the Frenchie, the owner, Jean-Noël Fourmeau, and also the privilege to have Eric Stauffer, and he's actually the winemaker at Chateau Potelle now. He's going to tell us about his background, where he's from, and the philosophy of the vision that he has for Chateau Potelle when he's making those wines. And as well, he's going to tell us a little bit more about the wine that we're testing this morning. And I hope everybody has on the front of you. Be sure then you have your glass ready. We're going to start this session with obviously sharing and putting a glass up to the community, to us, to the industry. We're a true trooper, we're a champion, and we are resilient. So we are going to make it. And thanks God, we have good wine to drink. So here we go. Thank you so much, everyone. Cheers to everyone. Salute. Here we go. This is your show, my friend, Mr. Matthew. Tell us everything about Chateau Potelle. How did it start and the story behind the label?
Oh my God. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for giving me permission to start drinking this early in the morning. I appreciate that. I need it today. Last night was a little rough, so I feel better already. So thank you, Bruno, for putting this on for us to allow us to introduce our new release of the Potelle 2 to your friends. Chateau Potelle, for many of you, I know a lot of you. Luckily, we've gotten to spend some time together, so it's good to see all your faces. You know, through this shitty time. Hopefully we're coming out of it soon. But Chateau Potelle was started in 1983 by another crazy Frenchman. I know you think Bruno's the only crazy Frenchman, but there's a few around. His name is Jean-Noël Fourmeau du Sartell. We affectionately call him Johnny Christmas. No offense, Smitty. But Jean-Noël came over from France in 1979, hired by the French government to spy on Napa Valley. And he came for 6 months, tasted all the wines in the Napa Valley, 600 wines, met Robert Mondavi, all the winery owners, and sent a telegram back to France saying, looks good, I stay. And he decided to defect from France and start a little winery on the top of Mount Veeder called Chateau Potelle. So this year was our 38th harvest for Chateau Potelle, and it's been, you know, this year was a terrible vintage. Obviously, we can talk about that later, but we've been through ups and downs, and Chateau Potelle now only makes around 6,000 cases a year. And we focus most of our wines from Mount Veeder appellation. So small production wines. Eric will talk about some of the vineyards that we farm on Mount Veeder and throughout the rest of the Napa Valley and Sonoma. But Chateau Potelle got its name from Jean-Noël's family chateau. Chateau Potelle is actually in the town of Potelle in the Nord district of France, just below the Belgian border. And Chateau Potelle was built 730 years ago. So when Jean-Noël came here to America, he didn't know what to call his winery, and so he called it his family chateau, Chateau Potelle. But we also added VGS. In 1990, most of you probably know us as VGS. And VGS is a funny story. Chateau Potelle, for those of you who have been to our vineyards on the Mount Veeder, you know it's way up there. It's about a 30-minute drive from Highway 29. And the vineyards are on the steep slopes of Mount Veeder next to Mayacamas Winery, just on the Napa-Sonoma border. And one day a visitor showed up to the house, at Jean-Noel's house on the mountain, knocked on the door and said, I'd like to taste your wines. He said, okay, fine, taste the wines. So he poured him the wines through the barrels, and he had a question for Jean-Noel. He said, when you were a wine spy for the French government, how did you rate wines? And Jean-Noel is kind of eccentric, and he said, well, I wasn't going to give him a pragmatic answer. I wanted him to have to dig a little bit. So he said, good shit, bad shit. He said, okay, thank you very much. Thank you for calling my wine shit. That's very nice of you. And he said, well, your wine's very good shit. Okay, fine. And the guy bought some wine and left, no big deal. The next day, 20 cars showed up. No, never before had 20 cars showed up. And Jean-Noel asked these people, why are you here? He said, oh, there was a guy at the breakfast this morning at the Marriott, and he told us, where are you tasting wine today? You should go up on the mountain and taste the very good shit. And he thought that was a bit strange. And the next day, again, 20 cars showed up. Why are you here? Oh, very good shit. We're here for the very good shit. And so it took him 3 years to convince his now ex-wife to put VGS on the label. But back then, VGS was very small. At the bottom of the label, Chateau Potelle was big. So now you can see VGS is big and Chateau Potelle is very small. And so he likes to say Chateau Potelle was his French heritage, but VGS was his American education. So that's how VGS was born. We've been making wine under the VGS label ever since. So people think that just because we're a French winery, you know, we're very stuffy and pretentious, but we're not at all. So that's why our wines are called very good shit. So we hope you think it tastes like very good shit.
Well, that's a great story. And I have to say, since we're in the market, obviously I hear about the label a long time ago when I came first, 25 years ago in the market, because I was going to Mayacamas very often, as I was the distributor for Mayacamas in Nevada for a while. And obviously I knew about Jean-Noel Fourmont as we were related. We work with the Cuvelier family, and most of the people on the screen right here knows about the Cuvelier family, and it looks like it's a close relationship with Cuvelier family in Léoville-Poiferré and Jean-Noel. So the story is, when we go to the market, most of the people remember VGS more than anything. Chateau Potelle became just like the second name now, which is kind of funny. And I think it's this type of marketing then I believe make the people remember about the product, but because also they know the quality of VGS, and you definitely build up a great reputation for this brand. That's great. That's amazing. Thank you, Matthew, for the introduction. Let's talk about maybe more about when and how you decide to make, like in Bordeaux, a second label. So we all know that in Bordeaux, the premier cru and the deuxième cru, like Léoville-Poiferré, for example, does the Pavillon de Poiferré. We're obviously the exclusive importer and distributor of Pavillon de Poiferré. And we all know that in Bordeaux, when you have the relationship with the chateau, usually you have to buy a certain amount of the top label of Léoville-Poiferré to get access to the second label, because the second label is always the best value. Now, when did you decide to do this? When did you start making Chateau Potelle 2, the one that we're testing today?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, you know, like you had mentioned, it's a tradition. It's been a tradition in France for many years now for top chateaus to be able to make their Grand Cru, the second wine, the third wine, and now some even the fourth wine. So Jean-Noel was very good friends with a gentleman that many of you might know, Paul Pontellier, who is the Director General of the Chateau Margaux, Jean-Noel's favorite winery in France, and a personal friend. Paul Pontellier started a program of taking Chateau Margaux to the next level of quality 30 years ago. And Chateau Margaux is, let's say, 100-hectare property. And back in the old days, they used to use every grape for their top wine, Chateau Margaux. But Paul decided that some of the vineyards, the younger plantings, weren't performing up to the top quality as some of the mature vines, and he decided to separate those, ferment those separately, age those separately, and create a second wine called Pavillon Rouge de Chateau Margaux. So that achieved two things. It gave the market a higher quality Grand Cru wine, Chateau Margaux. And then back then in the first year, I think it was 70, it went from 100% of the property going into the Grand Cru to 70% of the wine going into the top wine. And then it gave a wine called Pavillon Rouge, which was still quite delicious, still vinified up to the standards of Chateau Margaux, but at a third of the price. So instead of $1,000 a bottle, Pavillon Rouge was, 200 euros a bottle, let's say. And they continued to develop that, and they added a third wine to Chateau Margaux, and so it went down from 70% of the top wine to 50%, and then these other two wines to 50% each. Today, after Paul Pontier's influence, he's passed a few years ago, unfortunately, but now only 30% of the property for Chateau Margaux goes into the top wine, and 70% goes into the second, third, and now even fourth wine. So we decided at Chateau Potelle that, it's very clear, and Eric will talk about it, when Eric and Kale and Jean-Noel are tasting barrels, there are certain barrels that stand out above the others that are special. And so we decided to add, a few years ago, a top tier wine called Formeau, which is just over my shoulder. That is our top. But we only make a few barrels of that, and it's not made every vintage. It's kind of, very special, very high quality. And then, VGS is our core wine for our brand. And, we want to make that very, very high quality. But we also found that some of the younger vines, some of the younger plantings, and even, we all know that, 2 barrels of the same wine don't taste the same. It's like in life, we always say, you have, 2 people individually, they're both fantastic.
Yeah.
And if you put them together, they're terrible. And so, sometimes you take one barrel, you put them together, they don't work together. Same thing with people, they don't work together, but independently, they're fantastic. So we decided to cull away some barrels for the top tier, some for the VGS, and some for Potelle 2. So that's kind of how Potelle 2 was born. And it's achieved, like I said, multiple things. It's opened a new marketplace for us, a new price point for us. Our customers want to drink Chateau Potelle on a daily basis, but they maybe don't want to open a $225 bottle of wine every day. They can enjoy an $80 bottle of wine, maybe not every day, but more frequently than the more expensive wine. So this is how Potelle 2 was born. And for us, Potelle 2 has become our most popular wine we make. It's the wine we sell the most, and people love it. So it's become quite successful.
Great. What is the total production of Chateau Potelle 2?
We made 964 cases this year. It's by far our largest production wine. So I know that sounds kind of silly, but it's our mass-produced wine at 964 cases.
Wow, that's great. That's giving us more wine to play with.
Yep.
As it is, obviously, Chateau Potelle always been one of my highest allocation wine. And thank you to give us a little bit of allocation every year, but it is definitely a small production item. So that's great to see that Chateau Potelle is, and Jean-Noel and yourself, guys, decide to make more approachable in price, but obviously more in volume for us to play around and to actually give access to some of our key accounts like you guys, what you have on the screen. So thank you. Thank you. Do you want to add anything about the property? Maybe you want to tell us what's, are you okay? The fire really was pretty harsh this year. And I know 2 years ago, it was the same thing.
Yep.
I remember the story about 2 years ago, then you definitely saved most of the vineyard up there. What happened this year?
So, yes. So, it's funny because we always refer to the year of the fires as 2017. And obviously that is no longer true. It seems like we have a fire every year. Obviously, the fire this year was to the north of Mount Veeder and to the east, at least that's where it started. So Calistoga, Howell Mountain area, and then it jumped over the valley into Spring Mountain. So our vineyards this year were not affected by the flames themselves, but we lost 80% of our crop this year due to smoke damage. So although we were safe, none of our staff lost any property or lives. We did lose basically the whole vintage. And so, you know, very difficult for us, but, you know, we're adjusting to that. And one of the ways we adjusted to that, we farmed vineyards in Paso Robles for 16 years on the west side of Paso Robles. And we have great relationships with great winemakers down there. Stefan Aseo's a personal friend from L'Aventure. And so one of the first phone calls Jean-Noel made was to Stefan saying, buddy, I need some fucking grapes. Can you help me out? So Eric and Jean-Noel went to Paso Robles, and we purchased around 80 tons of Cabernet, Syrah, Zinfandel, and we will be making wines from Paso Robles in 2020 vintage. So we'll have some new products perhaps coming out of that at a good price point. So there'll be some opportunity for that in the future. So long story short, we're fine. You know, a lot of our friends and our neighbors lost plenty. So it's difficult, but you know, we'll rise above it and we'll keep moving forward.
That's great to hear. Then you actually adjust to it, and I believe during this very difficult time for what we go through in 2020, most of us did have to reinvent ourselves and think outside the box. And I think you're doing a great job. Let me ask you about this project in Paso Robles very quickly before we give the word to Eric,
Sure.
the winemaker. Are you going to put this 2020 with the fruit from Paso Robles under the same name, under Chateau Potelle VGS, or is it going to be a second label, or how is it going to work?
Yeah, so to be determined. The wines are still fermenting. Eric can speak to the progress of the wines, but they will certainly be, it really depends. We don't know. You know, we just know that, you know,
we will have wine.
We will have some wine. We don't know what price it will be. We don't know what quality. I mean, the grapes are beautiful quality. Eric will speak to that. The wines are tasting delicious, but they're not our typical Mount Veeder wines. But you know what? 2020 is not a very typical year. So, you know, we're going to have to adjust and we'll see. You'll know when we know.
Okay, it's a sad story. I know it is difficult for everyone in Napa, but I can see then you're very resilient, guys. It's great to see them. We're going to have some follow-up, especially when we have distribution and when the people are getting involved with Chateau Potelle and getting access to the Chateau Potelle and their wine program. They want to be sure that they have the continuity to it. So it's a great news.
Yep.
I am. Thank you again, Matthew. Obviously, definitely we're going to have you next to us if we have more questions for you. But let's say welcome to the winemaker Eric. I really appreciate Eric and you making the introduction today and tell us a little bit more about you. Thank you again. I really appreciate that. So go ahead, Eric.
Hi, everybody. I'm Eric Stauffer. I'm a third-generation winemaker originally from the East Coast. So my grandfather owned New York State Farm License number 1, Ben Marl Vineyards in the beautiful Hudson River Valley. And then my parents struck out on their own and settled in Pennsylvania, where they owned and operated Chad's Ford Winery for many, many years. The winery is still there. They are now retired. And I fell in love with the industry, and I fell in love with the people in the industry, and I fell in love with California wines. So I grew up in the industry. I came to California to get my UC Davis enology and viticulture degree, and discovered just how much easier it was to make really great wines in California than it is on the East Coast. And so I stayed. After schooling, I worked at Domaine Carneros actually for 7 years. Pinot was a focus of mine on the East Coast, if you can believe that people actually try to make Pinot Noir on the East Coast. So that was a fantastic experience. And then I was starting my own brand at the time, and through the one of the winemakers at the facility I was making wine, I got introduced to Chateau Potelle and Jean-Noël, and they were looking for someone at the time just to be an assistant winemaker, and I interviewed, and Jean-Noël really liked my passion for wine in the industry, and the rest, as they say, is the story. So,
Nice.
so that is my background.
That's great. Thank you for the background. I'm very happy to have someone from the East Coast making wine in the West Coast. But hey, I'm French, and I would love to make wine in California as well. So, and Jean-Noël is as well. Anyhow, tell me the relationship and how you help each other with Kjell Anderson. So Kjell Anderson is obviously the consulting winemaker. For most of you on the screen knows that we represent Kjell Anderson Wine. We love what Kjell's doing for us, but he's also the consulting winemaker for Chateau Potelle. So tell me a little bit more how he works between the winemaker, which is you, and a consulting winemaker.
One of the things you have to realize is we're such a small organization, so the winemaking team is Jean-Noël, Kjell, and I. So we felt like we needed to bring in another person, another palate, somebody who had more experience with California vineyards. Kjell is a native, and he knows everyone. He knows the area, and so it was just to make sure that the team had all of the aspects that we needed to make the best wine possible. And it has been a great learning experience for me. Kjell is a great winemaker with great insights. And as a team, we really fill in the missing areas that other people don't have. I have much more. I've been, a cellar master and a cellar worker, grew up in the business. So as far as operations, I have a really good bead on that. And of course, I grew up obviously in a family where, I've been drinking wine far before it was legal for me to do so. So, I have the palate and the experience, but again, especially when we sit down, the way we make wine, where we really do evaluate every barrel as a separate entity, to have, three different palates, three different opinions, to be able to make this selection, which does result in the Potelle too, where, we are very fortunate. Actually, we are drinking this Potelle too because 2018 was such a stellar vintage. It was more a, which are the truly great barrels and which are the ones which are merely fantastic sort of decision in 2018. But that's really how it works. It's just having those three different personalities, those three different palates, so we can, bounce ideas off each other and create these wines together. Doing it in a vacuum doesn't always work. So.
Okay, so tell us about, is every year Chateau Potelle 2 is made with the same blend? Obviously, we see the tech sheet right here, the tasting note, and I hope everybody see on my sharing screen. We good? Everybody see that? We good?
It's there, yep.
Okay, great. So obviously the 2018 is 34% Cabernet Sauvignon, 33% Zinfandel, 16% Syrah, and 14% Merlot. Can you tell us if every year is the same, or you pretty much give yourself the ability to make the best of the best with the best barrels?
Exactly. It is a little bit different every year. It is always Cabernet, Zinfandel, Syrah. That is the base. We slipped a little bit of that Merlot in there, which was a vineyard we were experimenting with, and we no longer get grapes from accepted in that year. So it does change, and the proportions change. we talk about this as the wine that, is the leftovers, right? These are the barrels that didn't make the grade for the more expensive, higher end wines. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of years there are leftovers that go on the bulk market that are not even deemed good enough for the Potelle 2. That is our commitment to quality. If we just don't like it, we're not going to try to sell it. As Matthew was saying earlier, in terms of, the new Formeau brand, is something that if it's not good enough, we just don't make it that year. So yeah, the blend is different, which is a lot of fun, actually, to be able to really focus in on, creating something that is a great wine, which is essentially made from all of these parts that we couldn't fit in elsewhere. And this is a lot of fun also because, people don't think, Zin, Cab, Syrah, all of these things, but a lot of times it's the sum is actually greater than, than the parts. It's a lot of fun, and by, tweaking that, those percentages, we can always come up with something which is a really fun wine. Most years it's a little bit more red, and a little, this again, this 18 is just a massive wine because 18 was such a good year. But yeah, so it does. I'm over explaining this, but yes, it does change a little bit year to year so that we can offer something that is a great wine at a great value.
That's great. Now you tell us about the different, obviously every vintage will have a different percentage and a different grapes, but mostly with the Cab, with the Syrah and the Zin. Now, is the wood treatment, the aging is different every vintage?
Only because, it's a barrel selection, and, some, because vintages are different, some year the Terenceau works better than the Radu or the Sylvain, but it's always all French oak. We've tried, to dash in some American, Hungarian, and other things, and it just has never worked with us. So we are sticking with French, and generally our wines are about 80% new. And again, there's a significant amount of used barrels and even stainless steel barrels we pepper in there to keep some more pure fruit so we can, kind of slide that back in. But it's generally, I want to say it's the same, but the fact of the matter is we are always experimenting with either new barrel producers or old barrel producers who will do custom barrels for us, either custom blends or a custom toast, to try and match our style. And every year we meet with all of our barrel producers and taste through our wines with them. And, sometimes we say, we really love your barrels, but we just wish it had, a little bit more of this or a kiss of that. And, when you're a good customer, they will say, well, hey, why don't we try this? And so yeah, it's all about, trying to marry everything together. And so we are not afraid to try different things. The formula is never quite the same. And it gives us all these different pieces we can put together to make great wines. It's a great tool.
That's great. But I know also testing the wine year after year, I see also a philosophy on the wine. I see a style on the wine. And I believe Jean-Noël has a very specific vision about what he's trying to accomplish regarding the style of the wine. In your sense, what is the vision of your winemaking? What exactly you're trying to accomplish as far as consistency to this Chateau Potelle 2? We're talking about this cuvée, of course.
The Chateau Potelle is sorry, the Potelle 2 is really meant to be a fun, multi-purpose wine. It's the Swiss Army knife, right? So it's meant to have that balance. You have structure from the Cabernet and darkness, and then also structure from the Syrah, but a little bit more red fruit, and then Zin, which is more red fruit and fun. So by combining all these things and having all these layers, it is really meant to be a wine which is very versatile as far as the foods you can have it with, as well as being just a fun and delicious wine on its own. That is the philosophy behind this wine.
Great. Thank you, Eric. I have a few questions on the chat box right here. The first question from Jeffrey was, what is the grams of RS or residual sugar on this wine? You remember?
I'm sorry, what was the question? The RS?
The grams, so RS, residual sugar. Do you have any?
I would have to go back and look at my notes, but I believe it's in the 1 gram per liter. It's a pretty significant alcohol here, which gives it that perception of sweetness. So it's not necessarily that there's a lot of residual sugar in there. It's a fairly high pH, high alcohol, which gives you that roundness and that perception of sweetness. But it is not bone dry, no.
Okay. Now, obviously, another question from Jeffrey. I love Jeffrey. He's always have great question for us. Which varietal that does ripe on the same time or not, and how you decide to for the picking?
We sample and taste, towards the end when things are really getting ripe and we know we're close. We sample 2 or 3 times a week, and we all get together. We run lab numbers, but the numbers are just numbers. We're waiting for the flavors to develop. So the short answer is, when it tastes delicious, that's when we pick it. It's all based on palate.
So you're like pretty much a chef. You go to the farmer's market and you pick it up the best ingredient and you make the special recipe as the season go through.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have history with these vineyards, so we know there's a time period and we know what the grapes look like and the leaves look like, when things are getting close. But in the end, it really is, we take large cluster samples, 30 plus clusters from whatever block. And we break these vineyards up into, we have, 1 Syrah vineyard and 1 Zinfandel vineyard, but they're all, especially since they're all mountain vineyards, the top is different from the bottom. So a lot of times, we'll sample top, middle, bottom, because we know those are going to be different. And sometimes they all ripen at once, and sometimes it's 3 different picks. So
Bruno, it's important to remember that this wine is not a field blend that's fermented and aged together. These are individual varietals that are picked separately, aged, fermented separately, aged separately. So there's the Syrah lot, the Zinfandel lot, the Merlot lot, the Cabernet Sauvignon lot, and this wine is blended assemblage after the wine has aged before bottling. So we're able to get the right ripeness, the optimal picking, of those individual varietals, then blended together after the wine has aged.
Got it. And now, can you tell us how many vineyards are involved in this cuvée, which vineyard it is, and where you pick it up?
Sure. The Syrah comes from Bald Mountain Vineyard, which is just about as far north as you can get in the Mount Veeder appellation. They are old vine. It is dry farmed. It is a bizarrely successful vineyard. It's beautiful, and it creates beautiful fruit. We get some Chardonnay from there, and also some Petit Syrah from there. The Cabernet comes from the vineyards right there around the old Chateau Potelle Chateau, middle of Mount Veeder. One of those Cabernet vineyards is the highest vineyard on Mount Veeder, just producing great Cabernet. the Merlot we're talking about in this
What is the
particular.
name of this vineyard, please?
Oh, sorry. There are two parcels there owned by the same grower. It is the Wildcat Vineyard and the Saffron Vineyard.
Yeah.
And we used to get across the road from the Saffron Vineyard. I believe there's a little bit of Beller, which is now owned by somebody new, and we don't get grapes from there anymore. Also a fabulous vineyard for Cabernet. And then the Zinfandel is actually Moon Mountain, so a little bit over towards Sonoma, but basically part of the same range of mountains. Great vineyard, also the Alta Vista Vineyard.
Got it.
Again, so all mountain fruit. The Merlot is a Calistoga vineyard, which we got this great Merlot from, but when we were picking it, we realized that the vines were very diseased and they weren't going to last that long, so we've discontinued that contract. So you won't see Merlot in that blend every year. Those are the three main properties that this wine comes from. And again, it will shift. One of the beautiful things about having multiple properties is, vintage differences can mean that one property will produce fantastic fruit one year and not as great fruit the next year. And so, again, as Matthew mentioned, everything is made as a vineyard and a block. To make that vineyard, that block, and those barrels into the best wine that they can be. And then later, we taste through and decide what the blends are.
Great. Super, Eric. Thank you. I think we got a great sense about how you're making this wine. Obviously, you're ready, guys, to if you have any other question, putting on the chat box and we can just answer to you as you have a specific question. Now, this is, what it is. We test the wine now for more than half an hour. It looks like we want to know what you guys thinking about the wine. So I'm going to ask anybody want to take the lead on the description of this wine, just to share that with others. It can be great. So who is up to the task this morning? Who's ready to talk to us? I don't want to point anyone, so please wave your hand. I have Karen. She loves to talk to us. Karen is a Vino 100 in Reno. And mute yourself, Karen, and tell me what you think. Obviously, you're super a great follower on Chateau Potelle, and you are one of the only retailer in Reno getting this amazing Chateau Potelle. So what did you think about this new release 2018 Chateau Potelle 2, please?
Oh, I just think it's wonderful. I'm really excited to try this wine. This wine is velvety goodness. I am telling you what, I'm getting blackberry, plum, this really neat little layer of bacon fat. It's got this, it's just a beautiful, well-crafted wine, because this is a hard combination to get. You have a very elegantly styled wine, but it has a really ton of backbone. And that's a very difficult balance when you have elegance and backbone. So this wine has structure, but it's still so elegant, and it's big, yet elegant. So we're getting this really big wine, but it's very refined, which is not an easy thing to do.
No, and the blending is just absolutely fantastic. I love the integration of the grape. They're really working together. It looks like they are getting they get along very, very well together. And that is technique of winemaking and blending. And I believe Jean-Noël, coming from France, from Bordeaux, always been a fan of blending. And I believe then Eric and Kel are following the right direction. And I believe they are accomplishing, and they are making this one very balanced. Is anybody want to add anything to this wine? Anybody has any comments on the wine? So anybody want to talk to us? I know we have a female talking about the wine all the time. I want a male. I want a guy take over the lead here. Come on. Who's coming? Who's coming? I don't see anyone. I'm going. Jeffrey, you love to talk about wine. Please. I know it's always on you, but I know your descriptive is always the best. So please go ahead.
Or what?
Jeffrey.
I'm also getting there's a ripeness level here, which is why I asked a question earlier about, you know, choosing when to pick the individual grapes here, because it is very well crafted and the oak is very well integrated. And I mean, we do have a big wine. I mean, this is for people that somebody mentioned Prisoner on there on the thread before, and I think that obviously that this is a wine made for people that want to drink very large Napa wines. And a great, it's got some raisination to it, but in a pretty way. Just some dried cherry and dried berry notes. I'm curious to wonder what Eric thinks on the ageability of the wine.
Eric, what do you think?
I think it will age, but it's pretty damn delicious now, and that's really what it's meant for. Is drink me now, enjoy me now. I would say, you know, this is 5 to 10 years maximum, as you said. You know, there's a little bit of that dried fruit character, and I'm not sure that isn't going to develop into more dried fruit character. So again, you know, the concept of this wine is more fun and frivolous and drink me now than it is, you know, a long-term aging. You know, we reserve those better, more integrated, balanced barrels for those wines.
Great. Thank you, Eric. Appreciate that. Thank you. I hope that's answered your question, Jeffrey. I wanna do something a little bit different today. I decided to invite my dear friend. I know he's mini chef on the screen right now. Obviously, Danny from Reno, that we all know. But I have my very close friend, Steve Benjamin. We met with Steve when he was at Robuchon in Las Vegas for many years at L'Atelier. And he's now based in Los Angeles, where he's the executive chef at the Waldorf Astoria. And I was chatting with him yesterday, and I told him about the program that they were doing. And I thought, you know, in the past I was doing was a little cheese pairing. And I believe a chef should tell us what he think about this wine and what he think he can actually pair this wine with. And who can be the best than Steve Benjamin to tell us about what you think about this wine. And I know he loved Breakfast of the Champion because he's a real true champion. So, good morning, Steve. How are you doing? Bonjour.
Bonjour, everyone. How are you, everyone? Very good. I really love the wine. I really like it. I mean, even is like what, 11? I started to drink it at 10:40, 10:45. It was really, really good. Like we said in the past, the red fruit on it is actually very, very intense. I really love it. The fruit spicy as well inside is very, very, very good. So in my head, when I'm drinking it, and you said what I wanted to eat with that, is a lot of things going in my head right now. I can get like, and of course I'm gonna play. I'm gonna play with seasonality and what I'm doing right now. We at the rooftop right now we're doing like a burrata with some figs and a spicy jam, something like that. I will really enjoy that kind of wine with it. But as well, I can enjoy it with some, you know, I used to do that with Joël Robuchon, this spicy octopus. We were actually cook it, and after we grill it with some thyme, rosemary, potatoes, and things. I mean, that one will be one of the star with that. As well, I can be very crazy and cook like some veal heads with a tongue on the middle, cook all together, braise it, and actually stir it after that with some Grebish sauce, some spiciness on it. I really like that one as well.
I'm on my way to the
sweet bread. Sweet bread, black truffle will be good with that.
I'm coming. I'm on my way.
I will eat a lot of dishes with that. Even a pâté en croûte, like a very nice pâté en croûte with some pistachio, foie gras, black truffle, like a little vin jaune vin jaune gelée and little mustard. I will eat that as well.
That's great. Thank you. Thank
Can
you.
be with a cheese as well, and it will work very well. You can accommodate anything with red wine. With a good red wine, you can eat everything.
I'm looking forward to have this amazing meal at the rooftop at the World of Astoria. Thank you, Chef. You're amazing, like always. And
No
I really
Anytime.
appreciate when you make the breakfast of the champion this morning with us. I really do. Thank you. And
Oui.
for the people in Vegas, they miss you. So I see a lot of people in Vegas say hello to the chef because it's you always been one of the creator over there in Las Vegas, and you make the cuisine stand up in both cities, in California and in Nevada, obviously. So thank you, Chef. Appreciate that.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Cheers, everyone.
What did you think, guys? Do you have any comments? Do you have any other information that you want to add to this beautiful presentation this morning? If not, I'm going to give the word to Matthew, because we want to be sure then you have the statement of the end, my friend. So go ahead, Matthew. Do you want to add anything to this beautiful presentation? Or
yeah, happy to. First, pour myself some more wine first, but thank you guys for joining us today. Obviously, we are here for you anytime with open arms and open doors. We'd love to receive you at our beautiful tasting house and garden in St. Helena anytime. You know, for us, as Chef was mentioning, you know, wine is nothing without great food. And if you come to VGS Chateau Potelle, we will host you with our compliments and enjoy a food and wine pairing. So all of the wines at Chateau Potelle are paired with food bites from Michelin star restaurant, Le Toc restaurant. Our good friend Chef Ken Frank creates a dish for each wine. So you'll come and sit down privately in our garden, enjoy 6 wines, each paired with a dish from Le Toc restaurant. As Chef was mentioning, it's very seasonality, so the menu changes every 4 weeks. I found it interesting, Chef, when you were talking about octopus and truffles. For this wine, I think those are beautiful pairings because this is a very versatile wine. With those 4 varietals, you have kind of all these flavors jumping in your palate. And so it takes food that is got great intensity, complexity, layers, umami. And so we welcome you anytime. You call me, email me, matthew@chateaupotelle.com. Send your friends, your family members, your customers, your clients, your employees, and we'll take care of them. You can always go through Bruno or any of the guys and girls from the team, but you can always reach out to me directly and we'll be happy to host you anytime.
Karen, I don't think it's a guest house yet, but we can always ask Jean-Noël if he has an extra room for you, but it's a good question. Really, thank you, Matthew, and thank you to Eric. Eric, do you want to give the last word? You're good.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Do you wanna make the final statement? Are you good?
You know, just again, Matthew just mentioned it. You know, when we craft this wine, it really is meant to be a Swiss Army knife. I made a little comment there. You know, it's got the bigness and the roundness and that sensation of sweetness, which will actually make it work with spicy foods, you know, Thai foods, but it's also a great burger and pizza, you know, wine, but it does have the depth and the structure to be a steak and potatoes wine. I mean, it's a great wine to just play around with all types of different foods and just to see how versatile it is. And then I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for taking the time to spend with us today and discover this wine. And I hope it leads you to discover some of our other wines too. You know, maybe this is the gateway drug for you for the rest of the VGS portfolio. So thank you all. I had a good time. I hope you all had a good time, and I hope you really enjoyed the wine. So.
Thank you, Eric. Keep doing some good wine for us. That's the best you can do. We want to be sure then we can keep drinking these exceptional wines from Chateau Potelle. For everyone, we do have Chateau Potelle allocation on Cabernet. We do have a allocation on their Chardonnay, but we also have their very emblematic, iconic Zinfandel as well. And of course, the one that we just received, which is the Chateau Potelle 2018. So here we go. So anyone are intriguing to bring Chateau Potelle 2, you all have to know then it's an allocation item. But if you do have access, if you want to have access to Chateau Potelle 2, please DM me, DM our salespeople, our sales representative, the team in California and Nevada, and we'll be sure that we give you access to those wines for your program and for your wine list. I want to thank you, everyone, to be part of this amazing champion. We are a true champion. We are going to do that again in 2 weeks, so stay tuned. I will announce who's going to be bringing over in 2 weeks. But I want to thank everyone to be part of this meeting. I want to thank Chateau Potelle, Jean-Noël Fourmeau, Matthew Regan, Eric Stauffer to make this happen this morning. I want to thank everyone in every city, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Reno, Lake Tahoe, to be part of these meetings. You know, then we are doing all that. It's possible because we are creating this community together, and we're here, Hillside Wine and Spirit and Regency, to support your program. So don't hesitate to reach out for us if you need anything to help you to develop your wine program. As far as information, product information, we all know then we're also very well known for collectibles. So if you do have access to, if you need access to collectible, please reach out for us. We're here to help. Here we go. So thank you again. That's going to be the end of the session before I announce the prices. Stay tuned for the price. And again, thanks to everyone. Thanks to the community. Thanks to all the wine buyer, chef, and the people really make the food and beverage industry happen. Thank you again, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.